Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the FirstGen Psychologist. In this series, you will cover topics that destigmatize mental health, as well as topics for personal development and empowerment centered on the FirstGen experience. I'm Dr. Lisette, aka the FirstGen Psychologist, and my pronouns are she, her, ella. I am a FirstGen Latina psychologist, leadership coach, speaker, and today I am your host. Today's topic is breaking barriers, empowering first-gen Latinx therapists. And we will be learning more about this from Linda Ruvalcaba, MA LPC bilingual psychotherapist. So let me share a little bit more about Linda. Linda Ruvalcaba is a bilingual psychotherapist and founder of Empieza Aquí Counseling, based in Phoenix, Arizona. She specializes in working with community leaders and activists and in addressing Latinx and first-gen issues. She is passionate about empowering her fellow Latinx colegas and has been hosting a monthly online networking event for Latinx therapists for 3.5 years. Linda, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I'm doing well. I'm super excited to get started.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm really excited to learn more from you, especially as we speak on this really important topic and a lot of the empowering of the people who are usually in the healer role, in the caregiver role, and needing to learn how do we also care for ourselves and what do we need. So in starting, what advice would you give to aspiring first-gen Latinx therapists who are navigating their educational and professional journeys?
So a lesson that I wish I had learned early on was to network from the start. But one of the issues is that sometimes networking looks like predominantly white spaces. And so that is why I started my networking group. And I know that other ones have like popped up since then that do focus on Latinx therapists so you can find more community and empowerment. So I think being able to, no matter where you're at in your journey, even if you're still just in school, like working towards your counseling degree or even your like bachelor's in psychology, it's always a great idea to just start getting connected with professionals who understand your background in the field.
Yes, no, I agree so much with this, the importance of networking, even when you're still a student, when you're still in school. I know for me, it was so pivotal. So I was like, it made such a big difference. Y'all, we are recording this on a Friday and my brain is just not computing as well. I think that's what's happening. But it was so pivotal for my success is what I was trying to say, because I remember when I was interested in applying, I was so lost with the process. Your first gen, yes, there's a lot of resources on campus. I didn't know how to navigate the Career Center. I'd go, I felt so intimidated. I felt that to have a meeting, I would have to do a role play interview. And I was like, I am so scared. I don't want to do that.
Those are awful.
And but something that I found that was very helpful was this like online community or listserv called the National Latinx Psychological Association. And when I found that, I remember feeling like, oh my goodness, I might have some resource and support here. And although I felt very intimidated about going in to access some of these resources on campuses, I felt more comfortable sending an email. And so I joined this organization, sent an email and said, hey, I'm a first-gen student and I'm interested in doing this and I'm so lost. I need help. Can someone talk to me? And the amount of responses that I received for folks who just wanted to do a phone call to help me out and network in that way. And so I think I just want to add that in terms of sometimes for networking, we can get very much like stuck in this idea of like only at a conference, only at these in-person events. But now there's so many
license. Yeah, you're a therapist already. Like, no, you don't have to wait. Just like you said, like as a student to reach out to get the guidance. Like a lot of us are just very willing to help because we know how difficult it can be to navigate like just the educational system alone.
Exactly. So I just wanted to add that. So networking, absolutely important. The consejos that I received from so many folks who just helped me with that first part of the journey, right? And then the professional journey is once you're in school, once you're working towards your licensure, having those connections makes such a difference. And what kind of difference does it make? So why do you think having mentors and role models is crucial for Latinx therapists and maybe any other underrepresented individuals in the field?
So I think it's so important to be able to hear from the experiences of people who understand our backgrounds, especially when we are entering the workforce. Again, I think this is what's something that would have saved me personally, like a lot of like heartache and tears and burnout. If I would have connected with a Latinx therapist who was familiar with the mental health field in general, with the community here in Phoenix, with the private practice, world, then maybe I wouldn't have gone into community mental health, which just used and abused me, where I experienced like harassment and racism. So I would have, had potentially like a much better start to my career if I had had these, appropriate role models and mentors that I could have looked to for guidance.
I really appreciate also that perspective, is that oftentimes I think a lot of people who go into this field, I will speak for myself, I had this big goal of giving back to my community, right? It's, oh, I see that there's so much stigma. I don't know what resources to access, but I can become a resource. And similar to you, I started a lot of my clinical experiences in community mental health. And I will say that by the time I graduated, I was so burnt out from community mental health. And I kept thinking, like, I don't think I can do this. This isn't sustainable for me for a variety of reasons, but many of what you've described, it's maybe not having the proper support systems in place to offer the right services. And also many of these agencies have very low funding and can't necessarily compensate you in the best way for the work that you're doing. And there's a lot of systemic and, I guess, bureaucratic and policies that come into play for that. But overall, you go to school, you work so hard to get this degree, you work so hard to get your hours for licensure, and then to work at a place that pays you maybe a bit over minimum wage with a higher education is really tough to maintain and sustain. And so having someone who can, like you said, give you that guidance for maybe starting somewhere else, building that income. And there are other ways to give back to our communities, right? And so in that, I think briefly spoke to this, but what's the role that mentors play in empowering and supporting Latinx therapists to overcome barriers and achieve success in their careers?
Yeah, so I think, the things that we just addressed, and I will also add from these role models and mentors, we can also learn maybe more culturally relevant and appropriate ways to work with our communities, right? Because what we're taught of just like a CBT model, just a very overly structured model of therapy, doesn't really resonate with our communities of, Latinx community or communities of color or other, like you said, underrepresented communities. So being able to have role models that we can look to who understand what our community really needs, then that'll offer greater guidance than some of these, like you said, maybe community mental health models would like us to use, which is usually like the brief CBT model.
Yes, and that's also something that's really important to add for folks maybe who aren't in this field. Oftentimes you work in community mental health and you have a limit on how many sessions you can provide to the folks. And short-term therapy, while it could be really effective when we're focusing on maybe more solution-focused needs, someone has a very specific goal, it's not necessarily always the best practice when we're working with trauma. And sometimes you want more than that. But you're limited to 6 sessions, and in those 6 sessions you have to teach someone all of these skills and challenge all the stigma that they've had about therapy forever. And so that can make it really difficult. So having the mentors who can provide you some more of the tools and, I guess, other practices, holistic or evidence-based, that can be more effective with this population is so important and so helpful. And, if you don't mind me asking, Linda, like in your practice now as a therapist, do you identify with any specific theoretical framework that you integrate, or is it more of this holistic experience for you?
I would say a bit of that holistic experience, definitely using like somatic models. I do a lot of brain spotting, and I'm also in this like several year long program. Like it's like going to be 5 years, I think, in the end. It's a diploma in existential analysis, which is really just taking a phenomenological approach to clients. So just being very present with like the individual in front of you. So I really love that. And I think it works really well with, the people that I work with.
Oh my God, how cool. See, I always also learn so much about everyone's theoretical, like the different and additional trainings that folks do, because our education does not stop when we graduate and when we get licensed. We have continuing education, plus our interests are varied. And I don't know about you, Linda, but one of the main reasons I continued school is also because I really loved learning and I loved that experience.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know we did speak to this briefly. I mean, a little bit, quite a bit now as I think about, but are any other consejos that you might have to give any Latinx therapists who are seeking mentors or role models in their field?
So for those who are like starting, a little further back, like if you're in school, like I know the university that I went to, Arizona State University, go Devils.
Yeah.
Not when I was in school, but nowadays they have this kind of like online platform where you can search out mentors. So it seems like maybe the students are maybe instructed to like go in and ask questions, maybe if you're like a freshman or something for a particular class, but it is a way that you can go and connect with people who have agreed to be part of this and be contacted by students. So looking into your university, if you have that. I started when I went into private practice full time, I didn't really know many people who were in private practice at all. And definitely none of them were anything other than white. So I just got on Psychology Today and I just searched for people who were bilingual, basically like people that I would want to refer clients to. Like I only work with adults and I only work with individuals. So who can I refer children to and couples to and who's Spanish speaking, right? So I searched out those people. I reached out to them. I asked them out for like coffee dates, met with them one-on-one. And then I started doing that. And I was like, well, I could probably just put it out there to see if many people want to come. And that's where the networking group started. But whether there's a networking space in your community or not, you can start one, right? Even if there is another one that exists, like you can go ahead and start one and just put it out there. There's different like Facebook groups that are, mental health related that, might be a great place to connect with others.
Yes, I think using all of our different resources, right? And so if you're in an institution, utilizing institutional resources, if you're already in a community, then seeking more community within that. Like, and whether that's like you're saying, sending a message, sending a DM to another therapist, it's like, hey, I'm interested in, I don't know about you, Linda, but I've received many of those emails for folks. And I have Zoom cafecitos all the time with people. And it's really, really nice. And before we started, this is what I was sharing with Linda, that I was like, I love doing this because I get to know more about folks, more about what they're doing and in amazing ways they're serving our communities. And so, yes, I think the biggest part of it is just like putting yourself out there and saying, I want to connect. And if I can't find it, I'm going to create it, just like you did. And I love the organic nature that your networking platform came about.
Yeah, I think it's really confronting our imposter syndrome that is so common with us as Latinx therapists, especially if we're FirstGen, right? Of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not an expert in anything. Even when you asked me about like theoretical model, I like hesitated because I was like, do I have one? Can I say, right? So it's like confronting that imposter syndrome and just being vulnerable. And, I think we're so appreciative when someone does reach out, because we know what it takes to be able to do that.
No, absolutely. And thanks for sharing that and being vulnerable around that question. I'm like, I will send questions to my guests ahead of time. That was not a question that Linda had. That was like, hey, can I ask you this too? And yeah, because we're constantly evolving and growing. And that's also an important part to normalize, I guess, the purpose of this conversation is to help empower FirstGen Latinx therapists. And I know you talk about how a big way to feel more empowered or to experience that is through having a mentor, having someone who can give you some guidance. And that guidance, a large part of that, I think, is really normalizing much of what we experience in this role as mental health professionals in the different settings that we may work in, right? And so as we talk about, mentorship can really be helpful for empowerment. That empowerment is really important to combat self-doubt that we experience, that imposter phenomenon that we experience, or at times, can help us recognize that we need to advocate for ourselves in moments where we're maybe feeling that our boundaries are being pushed in certain work settings, right? So all of that is beautiful, a part of mentorship. So again, we've spoken about, I think like we talked about this too, like they're all a bit connected, but do you have any other steps that you think people can take to encourage maybe some more Latinx therapists to become mentors. So we've been talking a lot about how to find one, but how do we, encourage other folks? It's like, put yourself out there, be a mentor, provide this guidance to the next generation.
Yeah. Again, maybe starting at the university level, but some of the universities that people might be near or connected to, they might have scholarship programs. So that's kind of how I got started too, was there is a Latino-based scholarship program at ASU, and I heard that they were looking for mentors. And this isn't specific to mental health; it's just scholars. I did get paired with someone who was graduating with her bachelor's in psychology, so it worked out well. But that was like a great way to just get started with the mentorship, aspect of it. So reaching out to your universities, the alumni associations there, and seeing if they have different programs like that. That's a great way to find out. And, like that kind of website situation that maybe universities have too is another way. Reaching out within these like Facebook groups that are like Latinx based, like there's a Latinx Therapist Facebook group, there's Latinx Counselors and Therapists Facebook group. That's like another great one, where instead of waiting for someone to say like, hey, I'm looking for a mentor, for you to be able to say like, hey, I'm wondering if anyone's like looking for a little guidance, any like new therapists out there or students who want to have like a little, like you said, a Zoom cafecito. Let's schedule.
Yes. I know, utilize those resources. Like I don't think I spend as much time on Facebook generally, but I will always go on Facebook to check on my groups because I like have such strong communities in all my Facebook groups, including my fun ones. So it's like I love the Latinx therapist groups because I feel like I'm learning so much about all the different resources, the offerings people have. But then I also think it's fun to follow a lot of cat groups because I'm a big cat lover, and so I'll just share that.
You're gonna have to send me some of those.
I will just share one randomly here, but there is a Facebook group that's called Not to Be Dramatic, but I Would Die for This Cat. That's the name of the group. That's the full name of the group. And it cracks me up every time because I'm like, this is so funny because everything will start with NTBDBIDFC. Did I say that right? I don't know. FTC. Someone check me later. But Christ, it's like now I see that and I'm like, not to be dramatic, but I would die for this cat. Anytime.
I'm gonna look that up. Yeah. Because side note, I just started sending invites for my cat's quinceañera next month, so that's totally me. So if you want to come out to me,
don't tempt me. I was like, not for your cat's quinceañera. This plushie. Okay, no, it's on this side. My friend made this. I know. We have other things to talk about, but my friend had this made for me, and it looks like my cat, and even with his like little green bow tie. So this is my Louis that always hangs out and blesses my session.
Oh, I love it.
And so anyway, sorry. We will come back to the topic, but just generally, I think this has been such a helpful conversation and such an important conversation as we're talking about FirstGen Latinx therapists. What was it? Finding their voice and seeking support, and FirstGen Latinx therapists who are already there, who are already licensed, and finding ways to elevate others by offering your support, right? So it really is just about making yourself available. And I would push to say, like, even if you have any other social media platforms, if you are very interested in being a mentor or, offering those supports, I mean, please join any of these groups. But if you have an online community of your own, like, just promote it every once in a while. Just say like, hey, I have capacity to take on one person. I will say that in my stories constantly if I have something that I'm offering. And most of the time you get someone or someone who knows someone that like might need the help. So, Linda, how can we support you and your work?
So you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. The handle on both of them is at Empieza Aquí Counseling. My website is empiezaaqui.com. I am slowly working on for this networking group I've been running. It is typically the fourth Tuesday of every month. People are welcome to just drop in. It is a Latinx only space. Sometimes we have people who join that do not identify that way. And so I kindly ask them to, let this be our safe space where we really just build community and empowerment. But people are welcome to drop in, even if it's just 5 minutes, in between clients, just to say hi, totally fine. And I'm actually working on, this is the part I was saying, I'm slowly working on creating a professional association for that group because it's had a global reach, and we have over 100 members in it. We stay connected through like a shared email address, a shared Google Drive folder where we share resources and referral lists. It's such a beautiful community. So I would invite you.
Okay, so it's online, right? This is virtual.
Online. Yeah.
It's online. And it's usually the fourth. Say, give me the details one more time, because I heard them, but I need to hear them again.
Yeah, so it's online through Google Meet. It's typically the fourth Tuesday of the month. Okay. Arizona time, we don't change time zone. Our time zone doesn't change. So it's from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Like I said, you don't have to stay the whole time. You can drop in anytime, just say hi. You'll find the details, because each month the Google Meet link changes. So you'll find the details on my Facebook business page, which is that handle I gave of Empieza Aquí Counseling.
Oh, awesome. So follow the Facebook page to be able to receive notifications and to join sometime. Is there a fee for people to attend these networking meetings?
Nope, totally free. Okay. When it becomes a professional association, there will be a fee to be part of that, but I plan to always have a networking group that's free and open to the public.
I love that. No, I love that. And I love so much that, I know how much work this goes into planning and organizing. And so thank you for everything that you do with that. Do you offer any, do you have any slots available for individual therapy clients or any other of your services? I'd love to promote those as well.
Oh, yeah. So I'm taking, it's been a busy year so far, I guess, because I was rebranding my business. So I used to go by Therapy Girl. That's still a public account too on Instagram, if you follow that, at therapy.girl. But otherwise, all the business stuff is under this other one. So it's been a busy time. So I'm taking it slow this summer. And then I plan at the end of July to open up my availability again. I'm just kind of taking the typical summer lull as like a nice little breather after such a busy time of rebranding.
Excuse me.
But I do plan in the hopefully near future to start offering consultation as well and mentorship too through my business. And then one last plug actually for the networking group. Every now and then we do in-person events. So I will actually be going out to California, since we have so many California members, to do an in-person one at the end of July. So that'll be the weekend of July 29th. Details are still coming, probably in the Long Beach area.
You don't say. I was like, I live in Long Beach, Linda. I live in Long Beach.
I'll see you then.
I'm just like, I was like, oh, that would be so nice. I was like, I mean, you don't have to go out to Phoenix, but I would love to go out there. Like I've never been, and I hear such great things, and so I'd love to make it out there. But anyway, Linda, it was such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful. I appreciate you and all the work you do.
Thank you. And thank you all who tuned in with us today. Please share this with anyone who you think this might benefit. And as always, every episode will air on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for as long as I can do this. And so thank you, everyone. Have a great one.